One Piece chapter 1158 is out, and it is a continuation of a great string of chapters that we have been having thus far. Just like the last chapter, I highly enjoyed this one, so let's get right into what this chapter implies and what it means for the story going forward. That being said, if you have not read chapter 1158, I do suggest that you do that before watching this video, as we will be spoiling everything One Piece up to that point. Anyway, now to the chapter. To start us off, right off the bat, I just quickly would like to take the dub in correctly predicting that Harold would take up the government in their deal to beat Rocks to get themselves at the world government table. We see some brawling between the two in this newest chapter, meaning I was correct in that. We will also take the biggest L ever. As I said, Shakuyaku was a new character to One Piece. This is obviously wrong, because in this chapter, they call her by Shaki, and I realized that this is the same character that's in the Sabayori Archipelago. That's like the lover of Rayleigh, because she writes a love note to Rayleigh. So I was completely wrong in my last video. So sorry about that. But, you know, we take the L, we take the dub, and we move on. Most interesting part in this chapter, however, is right at the end with Shanks and Shamrock's birth at God Valley. This is huge because it means they were on the island at the same time Roger and Garp and Harold and Rocks all were. I looked back, actually. I didn't realize that Shanks is actually not with Roger when they arrive at God Valley. I didn't originally know that. I went back and watched the anime and the manga and stuff. You can actually see that Roger still got the straw hat and everything, meaning Shanks was not there yet. This is probably when Shanks joins the Roger Pirates, which is very interesting. It definitely means that there's more mystery now added to the God Valley incident, because now we have to figure out how Shanks eventually joined Roger's crew. But we're going to talk about that later on in the video. The birth of these two on this island means that there was something that happened to them specifically on the island that made them pick sides. We know for the present day that Shanks chose to join Roger's crew and that Shamrock affiliated himself with the world government. However, how is this the case, and was it even the case in the first place? Shamrock was literally being hunted by the people he eventually joined and became completely loyal to. Like we talked about in a previous conversation hockey, Imu's true powers might have to relate to some sort of soul selling and eating kind of deal. Adding on to that theory is the situation with Shamrock. If this theory proves to be true, at some point Shamrock must have sold his soul to Imu. Or maybe this new added lore of Shamrock being a citizen of God Valley proves to be another power scale for Imu. Maybe as well as the soul selling ability, souls can be stolen by her too. From this chapter, we get a lot more insight on the inciting incident of what will occur in God Valley. St. Garling states that the Great One will surely be pleased with a certain discovery in God Valley. Whether or not this is the birth of the twins is unclear. However, we see that 1 year has gone by since St. Garling talked to the Gorosei about this and the birth of Shanks and Shamrock, so it's most likely not that. But the two of them are bound to make a big impact on the events of God Valley. So what is it? What happened at God Valley? A good way to figure this out is by looking at what we know already and what the results of the God Valley incident are. We know that God Valley was used in the biannual hunting ceremony done by the world government. We know that Kuma, Ivankov, and Ginny eventually escape this. We know that Roger Pirates and the Rocks Pirates arrive at the island. And we know that Vice Admiral Garp also makes an appearance on the island. We also know that God Valley has something special as revealed in this newest chapter. It is also the birthplace to Shanks and Shamrock, meaning they are most likely on the island during the incident. Now, what are some of the results of God Valley that we already know? We know that the events that took place here are being hidden by the world government. We know that Roger Pirates team up with Garp to defeat Rocks once and for all, making Garp become a hero of the Marines. And we know that Shanks joins Roger's crew and Shamrock becomes affiliated later with the world government. Now, on to the speculation of how we get ourselves from point A to point B. Starting off with Roger, Garp, and Rocks, within this chapter we get our first glimpse at the feud that Rocks and Harold had before God Valley. After many attempts to get Harold to join his crew, Rocks is disappointed and angry that Harold decided to take up the government on the deal and killing him to get himself at the world government table. Because of this, we know that ridding Rocks is part of the government's plan at this time. He is the only one they're after at this point, not even Roger. At this point in time, before and during the God Valley incident, Roger has not yet become king of the pirates, or really anyone the government needs to keep an eye on. The government has teamed up with pirates before, and I don't think it's out of the question that they teamed up with the Roger pirates this time at God Valley. The previous warlord system was an example of this, but also the deals that they have made with the emperors as well. The government knows it's not a strong enough force to maintain balance in the seas by themselves. I think it is definitely plausible that some sort of deal was given to Roger during the God Valley incident. But what were the terms of the deal? That's the question. Roger is an interesting character, as a lot of his motivation is on par with Luffy. He seems to be heavily motivated on being free and living on his own terms, as well as helping out anyone who's around him and the members of his crew. Meaning the terms of the government's little temporary warlord deal will have to comply with that ideology. With that, we know that Roger and Garp have become very good friends. Such good friends, in fact, that Roger even entrusts his own son to him, telling him the whereabouts of his wife and everything. So could this friendship be an offspring of a relationship Roger had with the world government? And how long did this relationship last? I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments below. Personally, I think the government made a similar deal with Roger that they did with King Harold. At this point, I think it's safe to assume that Harold will also be present during the God Valley incident. He has to be there in order to seal his own deal with the government to get him back to where we last saw him, the scary black silhouette we saw at the beginning of the flashback. It's also pretty safe to assume that all factions dissipate once they set foot on this island. Everyone seems to have Rocks as their common enemy. His defeat will echo throughout the world and bring light to the new legends that come out of this incident. King of the Pirates, Emperor of the Sea, Hero of the Marines, and even God Knight. There are a lot of big players, and I'm really excited to see what happened during this world-altering event. And I think it's finally time that we are going to see it. The next thing we need to discuss is what on earth happened with Shanks and Shamrock. They could not be any more polar opposite. Shanks, of course, going the pirate route, and Shamrock going the completely other direction and affiliating himself with the world government. I know that the evil Shanks theory has kind of died now, especially with the reveal of Shamrock in the latest chapters. However, I would like to come back a little bit and go back to this evil Shanks theory just for a second. Hear me out. We know the God Knights are born to royalty. They usually already have a strong connection to the government in order to even become one. Shamrock and Shanks were both born to this unnamed faceless woman that we know nothing about. And we also have no idea who their father is. It could very well be St. Garling, which would immediately tie Shanks and Shamrock to the government, or it could be someone we have never been introduced to yet. So maybe the twins are both royalty. And in that case, then Shanks still has an affiliation with the world government. And here's where my unpopular opinion comes in. I still think Shanks is the one who warned the Gorosei about a certain pirate for the longest time, and I had no real evidence for this, but now it's all starting to make sense with this newest chapter. One moment that's always confused me is Shanks' declaration to go after the One Piece. Once Luffy became an emperor, something about that panel has always felt super sinister, and I think it's because Shanks might be the one to rat out the location of the One Piece to the government, but only after Luffy gets there. That way the government can try to take out two birds with one stone, eliminate Luffy and seize the treasure. But here's the twist. I don't think Shanks actually wants the government to win that battle. He knows better than anyone how corrupt they really are. What he's really doing is betting on Luffy. Bringing the government to Laugh Tale could be Luffy's final test. The reason why he doesn't go after the One Piece himself is because he might have his own souls tied up with Imu. Luffy does not. Luffy is the only one that can succeed where Roger and Shanks failed, and that's in defeating the world government once and for all. In a way, Shanks is kind of like that balance, right? We never really see him directly attack the Marines. I mean, we know, like, with the Gum Gum Fruit and stuff, he did attack the Marines, but we also don't necessarily see the Marines, like, attacking Shanks head on. And this could be the fact because he's kind of affiliated with the world government. I mean, think about it. Shanks and his crew just waltzed right on into Marineford. They stopped Kaido, which was a huge government dub, because if Kaido got there, they definitely lose. And then they just waltz right up, and no Marine decides to attack, or no Admiral decides to attack. That kind of relationship can't just be built on fear alone of his strength. There's got to be something more, because there's 3 Admirals, there's the Fleet Admiral, like, there's a lot of players that can probably hold up a fight against Shanks, in my personal opinion. So why do they stop? Why do they not attack? Also, why did Shanks wait for like a very specific moment for him to go after the One Piece? Here's why. At God Valley, the government offered to protect Shanks, even under a pirate flag, in exchange for two things: Roger's cooperation and Shanks's, as well as information. They wanted to understand the life of a pirate, and they wanted to keep an eye on the hidden treasure Roger would soon discover. To prove his loyalty in this arrangement, Roger teams up with Garp to take down rocks. Later, when they reach Laughtail, Shanks purposely stays behind so the government won't be able to learn the real truth about the One Piece. From that point on, Shanks became a balancing piece, feeding the government just enough information to keep them satisfied while secretly holding back what really mattered. That's why the Gorosei still treat him as a valuable ally, but in reality, Shanks is just as much of a spy on the government as he is for them. And let's not forget the symbolism of his arm being lost. The same arm that had that mysterious tattoo that we see when he's kind of having a bathing time with Gabon in Elbath. Why that arm specifically? That very tattoo could be a mark of like Emu, right? So like Emu gives this mark to people, and that mark like essentially ties them to her. I bet this tattoo definitely has to do with, the kind of soul-selling, soul-searching, soul-eating, soul-eaters kind of stuff that we've been dealing with, and the kind of stuff that we've been talking about in Conversation Hockey for a while now. Betting the arm on Luffy is not just an act in betting and giving something out for Luffy, but it's also in Luffy kind of symbolically freeing him from the grip that the world government has on him. Because of that act, he has entrusted Luffy to the very thing that Roger couldn't do, that he couldn't do, that only Luffy can do, and that is rid the world of the world government's tyranny and the pain and the suffering that they've inflicted on everyone that we've seen recently in the chapters so far. To me, this is Shanks kind of saying, Roger didn't do it, I can't do it, but Luffy will, and that is why he gave up his arm for him. But I don't know, just let me know what you think in the comments. In my initial reaction to this chapter, I totally just scrolled straight past the cover story with like no regard whatsoever. I've been wondering for a long time where we're going with this cover story, because as of now, it's just kind of us touring Wano with Yamato. Later on, I scrolled back and showed physical confusion to the fact that the grave said Kozuki Moria. I later looked it up online and found a mountain upon mountain of Kozuki Moria fan art and fan theories titled The Comeback of the Century? ? This obviously means that Gecko Moria, the man from Thriller Bark himself, will in no doubt be returning. Of course, when Oda shows the grave of a character, graves meaning they're dead, it means no doubt they will be returning. Of course, when Oda shows the grave, of course, that makes complete and perfect logical sense. The rest of the chapter is great. I love it. I actually found myself laughing quite a bit throughout this chapter. There was 3 jokes that really landed for me. The first being Roger being jealous of Rayleigh's love letter that he got from Shaki. I also like the joke with Loki. He's like reading the newspaper and Matto is like, hey, Rox is not coming back. Like he's not going to be here. And Loki is like, shut up, you old hag. Like he's so mad at her. And then she's like, do you want juice? And then he just immediately folds. He's like, okay. I also love the expression of disappointment that Shaki gives Roger when he realizes Rayleigh did not come in. And then like once she hears Rayleigh like humming and singing like Binks's brew outside, she just like instantly faints. It's pretty funny. That'll be all for the review today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. It really helps me out. It's kind of always been like a dream of mine to start a YouTube and to like get myself out there. Now with these videos and with the time I've been setting up apart to it, it's kind of become a goal and no longer a dream. And so a subscribe or a like or a comment will really help me out just to get myself out there and to be a part of this YouTube One Piece community. I hope you guys have also been noticing like the progression of quality in the videos. Obviously, you can see here, I now own the wonderful, the magical, the mythical Blue Yeti mic. Yes, I bought the Blue Yeti mic because this is the microphone that everyone talks about. I asked ChatGPT about it a lot, and they recommended this one was the best one to get, so I got it. And I hope you guys kind of hear the difference in that quality from not being a voice memo and not being my phone microphone. Because we went from phone microphone to voice memo to now we're going to have some voiceover on-cam Blue Yeti action. I might stink at the editing. I don't know how it's going to go because I haven't edited it yet, obviously, but we're going to see how it is. Our comment for today comes from Dawson Flatness 5421, saying, I want Resident Evil with all caps and exclamation points. It's safe to assume that he wants some Resident Evil. This video of Resident Evil is actually in the works as we speak. I do want to upload it, especially for the kind of coming up to the release of Resident Evil 9. I'm a huge Resident Evil fan, so I'm excited for that. But yeah, the video is on its way. Also, be in tune next week. We will have another video coming out. It will not be about the new chapter. Well, I mean, obviously, we'll have a new video about the chapter, but I'm going to start a new series called The Best, where we talk about all the best stuff of the greatest piece of fiction of all time. The first video in that series will be coming out soon, so stay tuned for that. Again, like, comment, subscribe, helps out a ton. This, of course, has been Jackson with Conversation Hockey. Thanks for watching.
Going up, up, up is our moment. Gonna be glowing. We're gonna be golden. Oh, up, up, up in our voices. We're gonna be golden. Oh, I'm done hiding now. I'm shining like a